Charlotte Squawks for sharing their digital short, Mayor Wars. I heard you all laughing, so that's a good thing. And now I'd like to invite Amy Chu up to the stage. Amy is the founder of We're the Future, We Vote. Amy?
Wow. Thank you, Morgan. This is really incredible. So when we started planning this event a couple months ago, we looked for the smallest venue that we could find that still had stadium seating so that everybody could see. And we found a little theater that has about 200 or so seats. And everyone said to us, "You're completely crazy if you think 200 people are going to come to a local candidates forum." So thank you for being here tonight and helping us prove them wrong. Or maybe they're not wrong and we were right, that it is a little bit crazy to think that only 200 people would care as much about Charlotte as we do. And that's kind of what this is all about. We're the future, we vote. It's lovingly abbreviated WTF, we vote. And it's about getting new people and new perspectives involved in politics and policy making. Our goal is to make you smarter about local politics and the key issues that matter so that together we can make Charlotte a better place to live. So over the past year, we have done things like register voters. We've hosted Meet the Candidate sort of events, and we've written a weekly newsletter. We also tried some new things like hosting a political debate bingo night and live tweeting a city budget meeting. Admittedly, some things were better received than others. But we also did a lot of listening. We listened as people leaned in and whispered, "I'm not really registered to vote," as if maybe they thought they should be, but had no idea where to begin. We listened as parents shared their worries about our public school system and whether or not they would have to move from their beloved NODA or Plaza Midwood when their child was old enough to go to school. And we talked to recent graduates who were struggling to find quality and decent paying jobs in Charlotte where they really wanted to stay and kind of grow a career and a life. And then over and over again, we heard people tell us that politics is confusing and negative and petty, and worst of all, uninspiring. But I also want to share with you a couple things that we've learned along the way. First thing is, everyone cares. We care about different things, and we care differently about those things, but every single person cares about something. And so it's not really a problem of apathy, but really availability of and access to precious resources like quality information, time, and money. And the good thing is, starting from there, where we all care about something and about this place, we can work together and do something about the things that we face right now. The second is that we really need to vote. It's still the best measure of what's important to us as a community. And 500,000 votes will always outweigh 500 to 800 opinions in a survey or a poll. Our elected officials listen much more often than you think, but they need someone and something to listen to. So I encourage you to speak up and talk about the things that are important to you, because what matters to you matters to them also. And finally, politics and governing is really messy business, and that's okay. Anything that involves this many people and this many different perspectives and competing priorities is necessarily messy. But what's not okay is so many of us have abandoned and neglected the process because it's hard and frustrating. And it's not okay that we let things stagnate because it's easier to do more of the same than it is to figure out how to agree on new things to try. And so I encourage all of you to embrace the process, and however messy it is, and get involved, to find that level of mess that you can tolerate and just get in there, whether that's reading the news or organizing your neighbors or maybe running for office. And at the very least, please vote. Speaking of messy, some of you may know that I also run a tech startup. We're developing an app called Ballot, and the goal is to make it easier for voters to figure out who they want to vote for and also when and where and how they can vote. I'm really excited about it, and we've been working really hard. And then, to be honest, we're at that stage where we would be asking our good friends and family if they would take 5 minutes to try our app, and they don't really care, right? But I convinced our development team to let me just share it with all of you, since this is something that you do care about. And so I'm really excited to tell you that I'm inviting you to be our close friends and family from now until November and hopefully later. And that you can download the ballot app in the Google Play Store right now. And if you're an iPhone user, you can go to charlotte.getballot.com and check it out there. Our beta version was designed just for you. The candidates in the app are all on the ballot this fall and November. And the issues that make up the questions were sourced from community organizations and kind of shared with us what were the issues that they thought were most pressing in the community. And so we're asking you to check it out, play with it, explore, and let us know what you think. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and let us know what really just doesn't work for you. And then we will improve it, we'll fix it, and we'll build it better. And the same goes for the city. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and what really doesn't work for you. And together we can fix it, improve it, and build it better. Thank you again for being here tonight. And I'd like to bring Ted Williams up. He is the creator and publisher of Charlotte Agenda and a great partner in this forum tonight. So Ted.
Got a pen in my pocket. I look kind of nerdy up here. I'm going to take that out. Two quick interview stories. First is I went over to Edwin Peacock's office. I think his campaign manager's like, who is this Ted guy? Is a Charlotte Agenda thing? Ugh. And so I get over there. We have a great interview going. And so I asked Edwin a streetcar question that I knew would get him like riled up. So he's like, wait a minute, I thought it was going to be more lifestyle. And so he's like talking about streetcar and just going crazy about that. And so I'm sitting there thinking of my next question. My phone buzzes. Somebody on Twitter had told me that Edwin Peacock had the nickname of Owlbait. And so my second question was, tell me about this nickname Owlbait. And so he tells me a story from when he was running on Providence and Queens or something like that, and he got attacked by an owl. And like it was a real attack. I mean, he was hurt, it was serious. And I don't know if he was in a serious mode or thinking about something else, but he was dead serious. I just start like crying, laughing. You know those laughing fits you get in? It was super uncomfortable. We haven't talked about it since. But it was very, very strange. Second quick story. I was talking to Bruce Clark, who's a candidate for the city council. We meet at Earl's Grocery, and Bruce is going 1,000 miles per hour talking about this and that. And so I just had to slow him down. I was like, Bruce, tell me what the city council actually does. And so he laughed at me for a little bit. I think he thought I was an idiot. But the moral of those two stories is that these are real people, and I think that makes. I think there's something fun about that. Is they live here, and so you're going to see them. And the second thing is, don't be scared to ask simple things. You know, I know that I don't know what's going on with all of these things, but it's often the smartest person that asks simple questions. And I just wanted to leave you with, as a media company, you know, we serve you. So just email us. If there's an issue, you're like, what the heck is going on here? Email us. So we exist to serve you. And thank you for coming out here tonight.
Thank you, Amy and Ted. And also, Amy told me she was nervous tonight, but she's on live television regularly on WCCV News Edge, so I don't know what she's nervous about. As you all know, Charlotte will be electing a new mayor this fall. We currently have 8 candidates seeking your support, and we've invited all of them to present their vision for Charlotte, but we added a twist, as you know. They're going to be presenting Pecha Kucha style, not Machu Picchu, not Pokemon, Pecha Kucha style. Thank you, Amy, for making me say that a lot. Manoj Kesavan from Pecha Kucha Charlotte will explain how this works. Manoj is the executive director of Chaos, which is a collaborative, multidisciplinary studio that helps plan, activate, and sustain spaces for community and culture, and he is also the founder of Pecha Kucha Charlotte.
Thank you, Morgan. You've been saying it wrong. It's Pechakcha. Actually, apparently that's the Japanese way of saying it. It's a Japanese word. It's a very simple format. You show 20 images, 20 slides, and they're on auto advance, so you don't hold the clicker. So they change every 20 seconds. So 20 by 20, you have exactly 400 seconds, and then you're out. So this was started in Tokyo in an architecture firm where they had this big warehouse space where they did parties. People wanted to share images. And architects, unlike mayoral candidates, they tend to ramble. They keep talking. So they came up with this very arbitrary number. Like, okay, you can show 20 slides. You have 400 seconds. And they came up with this name, which I understand means chit-chat in Japanese. So these are it's a little bit different from what you have here, because these are usually held in nightclubs or more informal venues. So alcohol is a very central part of it. So in fact, the break in between, it's officially called a beer break all over the world. So anyway, so this format, spread all over the world. So we started it in 2008, and we have done 13 so far. We have one coming up on October 14th. Our 14th volume will be on October 14th. It'll be a chop shop. As you know, Chop Shop will be shutting the doors for forever soon after that. So this will be kind of a farewell to Chop Shop event. So hope you can come. And also, every time it's an open call, so it's a juried process. So the call is out right now. The deadline, I believe, is September 14th. So if you go to one of our websites or social media pages, you can find that. So after seeing the presentations tonight, if you feel inspired or if you feel like you could do better, please apply. So I guess that's it. So it'll be very wrong for me the whole charm of this format is how concise and precise it is. So it'd be wrong for me if I kept rambling. So thank you for being here, and hope to see you on October 14th. Yeah.
Thank you, Manoj. So this is a tough time for Charlotte. There's a lot of tension in our city right now around race relations, around relationships with law enforcement, school assignment, transit planning, the list goes on and on and on. We've invited Dee Odell to speak about some of the challenges that we face as a community and provide some context for these presentations. Dee Odell has been a banker for 25 years, is a CFA charter holder, is SVP and group head with U.S. Bank. Dee is an avid runner and community volunteer leader, serving as chair of the board of advisors for YMCA's Camp Thunderbird, and in leadership and teaching roles with youth at First Presbyterian Church. He's a native of Oxford, Mississippi, has an MA from Hampton-Sydney College and an MBA from UNC Chapel Hill. Dee and his wife, Christina, have 3 daughters, and they've lived in South Charlotte now for 12 years. Dee?
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, Amy, for including the Opportunity Task Force this evening. So on behalf of Dr. Ophelia Garman-Brown and the 20 members of the Opportunity Task Force, I am very pleased to be here. I am the only person who gets to stand here for 7 minutes without images scrolling. So I will try to keep you entertained while this one slide will stay the entire time. It is fitting that we are here discussing visions for our community's future. What kind of Charlotte do we believe we are? Our identity, our culture, and history are deeply rooted in a vision with opportunity at its core. I dare say that many, if not the majority of the people in the room tonight, have moved to Charlotte because of the opportunities that are here. And so our story has been, is, and will be about opportunity. Charlotte is a place where you can come and make things happen, where you can move ahead and build your own future. But what kind of community are we really, and for whom? Last year, we found out some truths about this vision. The image that we have of ourselves as a community of opportunity is true for some of us and not so true for many of us. I'm referring to a study published by researchers at Harvard and UC Berkeley, which placed Charlotte, the Charlotte area, 50th out of 50 in a list of communities ranked by economic mobility. This means that a child born to a lower income family in Charlotte-Mecklenburg is less likely to move up the economic ladder than in most other cities. And so the question we are all asking ourselves is, how did we end up 50th out of 50? You and I may find this ranking surprising. After all, our community is known as a place where people can make the most of their potential if they strive to achieve. But our local experts are not surprised. Dr. Owen Furseth from UNC Charlotte's Urban Institute tells us that children born into families at the lowest level of incomes in our community are unlikely to ever make more than the median income in our community. And even worse, if they are able to get out of poverty, they're very likely to slip back in at some point during their lives. Dr. Amy Hahn Nelson tells us that there are very clear links between Charlotte-Mecklenburg's lack of economic mobility and the segregation that exists in our neighborhoods and in our schools. And so it's disturbing for us to learn from her work that 1 in 3 of our public schools are segregated by poverty, and that 1 in 2 are segregated by race. This data and lots of other resources are available at the Opportunity Task Force website, opportunitycharmec.org. Our task force was created to help close the gap between our vision and our reality. Our purpose is to explore these issues and ultimately make recommendations on how our community can address the challenges that are core to economic mobility and opportunity. This will not be easy or quick. These are complex issues which involve education, employment, housing, family structure, segregation, and social capital. That is, our connectedness. So the timeline for recommendations is fairly short. The work of our committee will take place over the next year or 15 months. But the timeline is long for the impact. We are looking at something here which has generational impact. Phase 1 of our work is developing clear understanding. And so right now we are currently in a discovery phase. We are focusing on the factors that impact mobility the most and understanding the current situation in Charlotte. We are meeting with experts in these areas. We're also in dialogue with nationally recognized researchers. And you can follow along with us, read what we're reading, see the data that we're seeing by signing up for newsletters and updates from our website. Phase 2 is where we will explore options for what could be done differently, and we will engage in dialogue with the community to better understand a wide range of perspectives on those options. And finally, in Phase 3, we will develop some recommendations. We have been encouraged by lots of folks to think in terms of systems and structures in our community and not just new programs. We will focus on long-term goals, but we'll have shorter-term milestones to be able to measure our impact toward those long-term goals. We are pleased to have great partners on this journey who are providing both financial support and insight and guidance. They include Mecklenburg County, the City of Charlotte, Foundation for the Carolinas, the Knight Foundation, the John Belk Endowment, and the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. Our team is a dynamic and diverse group of 20 people. We are business people, law enforcement, clergy, civic leaders, educators, Charlotte natives, and newcomers. We reside in a variety of different zip codes around the city and county. We bring different voices to this conversation. Some in our group have lived the experience of struggling with mobility, and some are learning about that experience. You can read more about who we are in the bios that are also on the website. Know that we are absolutely committed to listening, learning, and making real impact in this community. So now let's talk about you and getting involved. We cannot and will not arrive at recommendations in a vacuum. We need all of you, or as we say in the South, all y'all, to be involved. We want a historic number of people to be involved in this effort, especially those who too often may have been left out of community-wide discussions and decision-making. And so we invite you to sign up at our website, to follow us on social media through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And this November, we will announce additional ways to get involved. We want to reach people where they are, in small groups, in large gatherings, digitally, and face-to-face meetings. And so some of the opportunities that will be available to you include a series of town hall meetings later this year and in the first quarter of 2016, an opportunity conversation kit that you can take, and it will allow you and your friends or your colleagues or coworkers to easily assemble and have a discussion around opportunity in our community, and then contribute that dialogue to this process. We will also present a group of storytellers who will talk to us about their experiences with opportunity and with mobility in their lives. There's a bit more coming. I'm not going to give it all away at this point, but be on the lookout for more information for us in a couple of months. We would like your help to reach people who are not ordinarily in conversations like this, in rooms like this one tonight. You are about to hear from leaders tonight about our community's future. We all have a role to play in creating a shared vision and making it real for our community. More of us must be included in the opportunity vision for Charlotte. And so on behalf of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Opportunity Task Force, we look forward to hearing from you, listening to you, and working with you as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. A quick programming note. Roderick Davis, one of the candidates listed in your program, is not going to be joining us tonight. And with that, let's get started. The candidates will be presenting in alphabetical order by last name. First is Mayor Pro Tem Michael Barnes. Mr. Barnes is unable to be here in person tonight, but he did send a video message.
I'm Charlotte Mayor Pro Tem Michael Barnes. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why I'm running for mayor. Growing up, my parents taught me to work hard for the things that I wanted and to get a good education. After college and law school, I moved to Charlotte to pursue the same things that a lot of other people moved to Charlotte for, and that is access to good jobs, access to a good quality of life. Over the last several years, my wife and I have worked hard to make sure our children understand the value of education, the value of hard work. And as a district representative for Northeast Charlotte for 8 years, I worked really hard to make sure that Northeast Charlotte got the investments it needed. I left behind over $200 million in infrastructure development and $1.1 billion in development related to the Blue Line extension. I was proud of the work that I did for Northeast Charlotte, and when I ran for City Council at large in 2013, I brought that same mindset to my role as a representative for the entire city, and that is to figure out how to invest in all parts of Charlotte. The $816 million community investment plan that we passed will go a long way to investing in infrastructure throughout our city. It will create over 18,000 jobs and have a $2.2 billion economic impact on our city. I think if we're very intentional about how we grow our city and why we grow our city, we'll find ourselves in a very strong position going into the future. I'd like to see Charlotte have its own Central Park, for example, just north of Uptown. I'd like to see Charlotte have a full-time medical school. I think that as we grow as a city, we'll realize that we can take advantage of all the amenities we have, from a very strong airport to a very strong road network. We can turn our city into what we want it to be. We can continue to grow our city, continue to create jobs, focus on strong public safety and strong neighborhoods, and bring about the results that so many of us want, and that is to have a good place to work, live, and play. I've been a very reasonable and consistent leader since I've been on the city council, and I want to bring that same consistency and reasonableness to the mayor's office. And I'd welcome you to visit my website at www.barnesforcharlotte.com to learn more about me. Thank you.
Also, if you're tweeting tonight, use hashtag ShakeUpCLT. So maybe we can get the event trending and give Amy some props for putting this all together. Now for the first presentation, please welcome Mayor Dan Clodfelter. Mayor Clodfelter. Mayor Clodfelter was appointed to mayor of Charlotte last spring, and prior to that, he served as a North Carolina state senator representing District 37. Mayor.
Good evening. We're going to wait for the first slide click to see how this works. Excuse me, that was the first slide. Can we go back? Already not following the rules. What stands out about great cities is how the places that people experience in the city enrich their interactions with each other. An urban environment that encourages strong connections among citizens leads to better community understanding and trust, greater creativity and vitality, and greater prosperity for all. We'll get the hang of this. Let's be honest with ourselves and admit that cities like Nashville and Austin do a better job of cultivating the music and arts scene than we do. We can be better. We have so much talent like you see here, the Avett Brothers in Charlotte. We have a strong platform of venues such as the Neighborhood Theater, the Evening Muse, and the North Carolina Music Factory, but we must stretch. Nashville created a music council to work on ways to build public infrastructure to support the arts. They built Ryman Lofts, Nashville's first housing specifically intended for career artists, located just outside downtown Nashville in Nashville's newest urban neighborhood focused on the arts. We need to bring more public art into public spaces. The city does a good job with its 1% for arts, but we need more community participation in turning our city into a city of character. This slide shows a landmark mural painted by volunteers from the LGBT community on the west side of the White Rabbit building. This is public art with a message, and most importantly, with community ownership. The Cross Charlotte Trail is a great initiative. Study after study has shown that there's no better bang for our infrastructure buck than investment in public greenways and trails. The Cross Charlotte Trail should become the backbone of an entire web of branches and spurs connecting neighborhoods all across the city. We can't stop there. We have to think about projects like New York City's High Line, pictured here, which repurposed an old railway into a mile-long linear urban park. Charlotte has plenty of areas that can be repurposed to make green space attractive for work, life, and play. No, this is not Abbey Road, and unfortunately, it's not Charlotte. A 2014 study found that our city was rated one of the least walkable of American cities. We have a long way to go, and we need policies and programs that put amenities within easy walking distance and that increase population densities, street connectivity, block lengths, and intersection density. Let's talk about repurposing. A great future requires that we maintain connections to our past. Here is a before and after of a very familiar spot. What makes this interesting is that the initiative for this successful conversion originated within the neighborhood itself. Fuel Pizza was the first step that spurred a commercial renaissance of the Plaza Midwood neighborhood. Another example of a revitalized historic treasure is Brevard Court and Ladder Arcade. In the heart of the city, this stretch represents Charlotte's history as a trading town. It was founded as a small business center, and it continues today to soften and enrich the new development that is springing up around it. I believe the creativity of smaller scale projects like Fuel Pizza and Brevard Court can work on a much larger scale. Eastland Mall was a hub of activity for an entire quadrant of our city, and it still can be. What if, for example, this site became home of an MLS soccer stadium surrounded by all the great international and cultural diversity of Charlotte's East Side neighborhoods? And speaking of diversity, the numerous multi-ethnic shopping plazas along Central Avenue and South Boulevard are treasures in our east and west sides that many Charlotteans have not experienced. This slide shows entrepreneurs from Vietnam, Mexico, El Salvador, Lebanon, and Somalia, all in a single commercial center on Central Avenue. We need this all across our city. So how do we connect all those great urban places and experiences? Charlotte has already seen amazing results from our first segment of our Lynx light rail system. We have to make the full build-out of that system our number one infrastructure priority. Every Charlottean wants a safe city and safe neighborhoods. Safety doesn't come from the number of officers on the street or the firepower they possess. In a great city, every citizen feels himself or herself safe in every part of the city, regardless of where he or she calls home. I will continue to be a cheerleader for our nationally recognized police community partnerships. We must come together to ensure that everyone feels respected and secure in Charlotte. Let's talk about related values to safety, respect for others, and individual self-esteem. Here's a great example, the Bahalu Academy. This amazing up-from-the-bootstraps after-school venture works to foster creativity, build confidence and character, and promote healthy decision-making through the arts, community service projects, and academic assistance. Our community's social and economic health is determined by how well everyone takes part in economic successes. There is no more important challenge today for Charlotte. My vision is to see us go from last place to first place in economic mobility measure amongst U.S. cities, and that is why I helped lead in the formation of the newly created Joint Economic Opportunity Task Force. We are not just a banking center. Since 2011, dozens of strong companies have announced new high-tech manufacturing and jobs in Charlotte, and many of these firms are active in global export sector. Making Charlotte an even stronger manufacturing economy will be essential if we want to be a global player in the 21st century. Here's a critical problem. The beginning salary for a CMS teacher is $35,418. The median home price is $161,000. Many of our new generation of teachers find themselves locked out of housing opportunities they desire. We must tackle this problem at both ends of the equation. We have to step up the city's existing strong commitment to affordable housing, working through public agencies and public-private partnerships. And most importantly, we have to renew our commitment that affordable doesn't mean second class, and that affordability needs to be a priority in all parts of our city, not just some parts. If Charlotte is to thrive, we must strengthen the dialogue among the different governments that serve us. I would like to see this headline one day. We must reinvent the relationship between local government and state government to ensure that we have a new state-local partnership. Getting everyone to the table won't be easy, and on the same page will not be easy, but I'm committed to do my part. And of course, you're using my 20 seconds, folks. Of course, no vision of Charlotte will be complete until the Panthers are the Super Bowl champions. Enough said.
Nice. Good note to end on. Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have Councilman David Howard. Mr. Howard is serving his third term as a City Council at-large member. He grew up on the west side of Charlotte and graduated from West Charlotte High School. David has worked at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Housing Partnership since 1997 and is now Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and Fund Development. Mr. Howard.
Good evening. Now, I thought I was going to be able to walk around, and I think they went to see if they had a wireless mic. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to start off by just reading what this slide says. It says, Charlotte is where I was born, I was raised, and I went to college. I got my first job here. I married my wife, raising my family here, and I know the city's potential because I've lived it. I'm excited today to be here because I want to explain to you why I think it's important to be intentional about growing Charlotte and moving it forward. Now, that had to be 20 seconds. All right, so I want to introduce you to me. So look at this. Yep, that's me. Isn't he the cutest baby? And yep, my mom made sure I was cool. And you see, I went through those awkward years that we all went through. I had that members-only jacket. Your generation probably doesn't remember what that is. And, of course, I went on to graduate. But let me tell you about the neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up on the West Boulevard corridor, and this was the reality of what I saw in the news about where I grew up. I remember kind of feeling like on the west side, off of the West Boulevard corridor, I felt invisible to what was going on in the rest of the community. I saw areas of Charlotte moving forward, but not the community that I lived in. So I'm going to tell you a story. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry, that's my mother. That's the reason why I think I'm standing here today, because of her and God. She was actually one of those people that made sure that no matter what happened, that I had an opportunity to be better than the station in life where I started. My mother's Judy Williams. You may recognize her. She's involved with an organization called Mothers of Murdered Offspring, and she's been involved with that organization for 22 years. Let me tell you a quick story. This house is actually over off of Mint Street, off of Dunbar. Back in 1927, a young man named Jim Oliphant moved his family up here from Edgefield, South Carolina. His intent was to bring his family here so that they could actually have a better life. If you saw the way that that porch was oriented, you actually could sit out on the swing porch and you actually could look out and see the skyline. That young man was my great-grandfather. My grandmother grew up in the house right next door. I used to look out at this skyline and I used to dream, what would be my place in this city? What would the city become? Well, I can tell you that today this community has given me opportunity after opportunity. I've actually served on the planning commission. I've actually been involved with community organizations. I've actually had the opportunity to serve this community in a number of ways. But I'm afraid that not too many people have that opportunity today. I'm running for mayor because I want to make sure that this community actually is one where everybody can thrive and everybody can be involved. But what will it take? Charlotte's at a critical crossroads. What do we want to be next is the question I'm asking you tonight. Where do we go from here? We've been the second largest banking center now for the last 20 years. We know that. But what do we do moving forward? Charlotte's at a critical crossroads. So I have a 4-point plan to move us forward. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we are preparing for those ideas that will move us forward. And what I started last year was a conversation called Rethink CLT. It was a conversation about thoughts that I'd seen in other cities, traveling here domestically and internationally. We had some great conversations, and we had people come out to hear what David Howard was thinking. And I started to present those 4 points to this community. The first thing is making sure that Charlotte's a global city and we're prepared for the future. Now, we know that in order to do that, we're going to have to do things to make sure we're welcoming to the foreign population that's here. I'm not sure that you know this, but we actually have 15% of our population is foreign-born right now. So I proposed to City Council that we create the Immigrant Integration Task Force about 20 months ago, so we could start conversations about what will it take to make sure we're welcoming to everybody. Part of Charlotte's secret has always been that we are inclusive. We've always embraced diversity. That's one of the reasons we're here. That's one of the things that you talked about just a little while ago about the Opportunities Task Force. And what I know is that we have to be intentional about moving forward. Number 2 is actually growing the jobs of the future. Now, I've actually had an opportunity to visit both Barcelona and see the 22 Ed area, as well as the 798 area in Beijing, China. And I can tell you that each one of those have examples of what we could be doing here in Charlotte. We actually have some locations here in Charlotte along the Graham Street, North Tryon area where we want to do that. And I've actually had an opportunity to see these things all around the world. Yep, that's me in Bilbao, Spain last year on a panel talking about Charlotte. That's me in Barcelona talking about Charlotte and Envision Charlotte. That's me and a team of 10 people that went over to Barcelona for the Smart City Expo talking to the mayor. And then there was another picture of me talking to the soccer team over in Barcelona. Number 3, we've got to grow our mass transit. We got to modernize our system. We think about mass transit as just trains and buses. Well, I can tell you, mass transit is about connecting people to opportunities. If we're not doing that, then we're not becoming the competitive city we need to be. And in order to do that, yep, that could be us. In order to do that, we actually I've been working on a committee called the Finance Transit Working Group. And what we see is this model at the top. The Charlotte's been doing the model on the left, on the right, and we have to do the model on the right. We have to find more creative ways to grow our community and grow our mass transit system. The last issue is the one that's closest to my heart, and that's the fact that I told you I grew up on the West Boulevard corridor at a time when I felt like we were invisible. The next mayor is going to have to figure out how to pull the east and west side into the economic development conversation. In order to do that, I propose that we have community conversations about what the urban blueprint looks like going forward. Just to give you an example, I went and met with the CEO, the general counsel, and the COO of Sealed Air. Essentially, they're building on the West Boulevard corridor off of West Talvola. I started a conversation with them about what does it take to now connect you with the high schools in the area, with West Mecklenburg, with West Charlotte, with Harding and other schools. And for me, everything I'm doing is about helping to build this community for those children, to make sure that if they want to be a success in this community, they can. that pathway that led me to this place is offered to everybody. I want to make sure that this community is one where everybody succeeds, no matter what neighborhood you start in, what school you go to. I want to make sure that when reality meets potential in this community, in anybody's life, that they can dream one day of being the chair of the Planning Commission, which is what that picture is at the top, climbing the Great Wall of China, which I had an opportunity to do, or to just live out his childhood fantasy of being like Harvey Gantt, which I'm having an opportunity to do right now. In a lot of ways, my story is Charlotte's story, and I want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity to be a success that I have. I'll end with this quote. When Rahm Emanuel was actually giving his speech when he took over office in Chicago, he mentioned that Mayor Daley had given him some advice. He was talking about the fact that in a society where you had so much going on, and in Charlotte we know that. We have the police issues. We have the race issues. We have so many things going on. If you think about it, there's just a lot of noise going on. What he told them to do is that they needed to lower their voices and to raise their sights. That's what I want to do for this community as mayor. I want to make sure that we're looking out to the future and we're thinking about what we can be, and more importantly, making sure everybody in this community can share in it. My name is David Howard. My website is votedavidhoward.com, and thank you for the 400 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Please welcome former City Councilman Edwin Peacock to the stage next. Mr. Peacock served on the Charlotte City Council from 2007 to 2011. He is the Vice President of Pomfret Financial Company and a Blumenthal Performing Arts trustee.
Good. Awesome. Do you remember the last mayor's election? I do. It's from the embarrassing arrest, resignation, and conviction of my last opponent that were brought together tonight with a new focus on the importance of local elections. A new generation is emerging and getting engaged in Charlotte. Elections are and always will be about the future. I love to skateboard. I have a half pipe in my backyard. One day, my wife suggested I watch a video from leadership expert John Maxwell where he shares the word of the day. That word of the day was challenges. We face enormous challenges in Charlotte to extend opportunity to everyone. His video convinced me that I needed to drop in and run for mayor again. Maxwell believes that leadership is ultimately about influencing others. I've always enjoyed the challenge of influencing others to come together, even when they might be on the opposite side of issues. I'm running for mayor because I want the opportunity to set an example of leadership and to inspire others to do more for their city and more in their city. I grew up in Lansdowne in South Charlotte. Mom was a CMS art teacher. Dad was a life insurance agent. To my brother and I, Dad was a role model. To the city, he was a servant leader. From age 4 to 13, I saw my dad serve on county commission, our city council, and yes, he even ran for mayor twice. One day, a peacock will finally win. My dream was to play Major League Baseball. I played several high school games in the old Charlotte O's Crockett Park Stadium. When I help Charlotte bring a Major League Baseball team to Charlotte, I sure hope they'll have room in their bullpen for another lefty who might still have some gas left in his tank. After graduating, small, slow pause. After graduating from the University of Georgia in 1992, I came home to Charlotte and thought it was extremely boring. I agreed with the sentiments of many that Charlotte was a great place to live, but you just wouldn't want to visit. Bennigan's was high cuisine. What about a hot dog at the Eckerd's lunch counter? I left Charlotte and chose to start my career in Washington, D.C. For my 12 years in D.C., I ironically did nothing in politics. It was all business. President John F. Kennedy was famous for describing the Washington, D.C. area as a city where northern efficiency met southern charm. My time in D.C. was a transformative experience. I got to see firsthand how a great metropolitan region comes together to live, work, and play. Amy and I returned to Charlotte in 2003. We had no expectations for excitement, culture, or fun. I assumed it would be a sleepy southern city again. To my surprise, it had become full color. A city with restaurants, a growing art scene, a sense of excitement and real potential. Charlotte has become a new South City that I've dreamed of, and it's come right before my eyes. Mass transit, art, theater, pro sports, excitement for the outdoors. Is this really Charlotte? For us, we felt Charlotte had become a city where Southern efficiency had met Southern charm. Yes, an efficient Southern city. On Sundays, I often run a 12-mile route with my men's group from F3 around parts of town that many don't think would be safe. This shot was taken from the Seaverville neighborhood in West Charlotte. Notice at the bottom of the photo the abandoned train tracks of this industrial corridor. This little-known intersection is a jewel of a view. It was in this very spot that the term "a seamless city" came alive to me. After reading the book The Seamless City by Mayor Rick Baker, I was inspired to look more critically at what was holding back our city. One part of our city has fallen behind has been East Charlotte. When Independence Boulevard became divided by a Jersey wall and turned into an expressway and created a seam in our city that we must erase. A seamless city is one where you go from one part of town to the other, and you should not feel as though you've entered a place you would not want to be. The sense of abandonment and hopelessness is on full display in this shot of the site of the former Eastland Mall. The photo symbolizes both the past and hope for the future for East Charlotte, with plans for mixed-use development of office, retail, and a charter school, as well as a park. We could see collaborative government working together to restore this cherished area of Charlotte. I only wish I could make it happen faster. The seams of our city for decades have been in West Charlotte. Residents have welcomed a bold new vision in their community led by Johnson C. Smith University to create a West End to rival our South End. This global leader in urban higher education is leading the way in the transformation of West Charlotte, and there's no limit to the amount of success that they can achieve. The process of healing for Charlotte following the Carrick-Farrell trial has begun. Charlotte has come together and not torn apart over the unfortunate events that occurred in September of 2013. This wall art scene in Belmont neighborhood says it all. Love your neighbors as yourself. Charlotte's success has been built off decades of smart, patient, and forward-thinking good government. The crossroads we face today are to remain together, not separate during our growth. My vision for Charlotte is to see her prosper in all four corners of this great city. A seamless city where we must adopt an attitude that we are all in this together. We can no longer pit one part of Charlotte against the other and expect to succeed. To become a seamless city, Charlotte can and must become the most business and family-friendly city in the United States. I'd like to focus my vision for Charlotte in three areas: growing and diversifying our economy for the next generation, building a stronger educational environment, and planning for mobility needs of a fast-growing city. To achieve this, it will require leadership that puts a stop to further tax increases. It will require leadership that stops spending on large capital projects like the trolley, where funds don't exist to build or maintain it. Since a transit system is built to connect a city and bring development to needed areas of neglect, will an expensive trolley that we took off our streets 77 years ago be the best way to ensure the future of transportation is golden? As a new Google Fiber city, could there be the possibility that a Google Transit program of a driverless bus or a car could be in our future? Could the technology of today be married with the efficient and cost-effective bus rapid transit system of this image from Curitiba, Brazil? 8 months after my defeat in the last mayor's election, my mother passed away after a 4.5-year dance with ovarian cancer. Mom's true gift was to teach and help others. She was a very talented artist. She taught us to see things differently, dynamically, to see color and light, to be the truth, and to be authentic. I won't pretend to be anyone else in this election, just Edwin. And that's why my mom was so proud of me when I put on this wig and her sunglasses, and I went out in the stiletto sprint to cure ovarian cancer. Here you have me with one of Charlotte's great philanthropists, Smokey Bissell, wearing drag. Here's to you, Mom. I know you're dancing in heaven right now. Thank you, and ask for your vote and support. EdwinPeacock.com.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. Next, we have the only woman in the race, former chair of the County Commission, Jennifer Roberts. Ms. Roberts has served as a Mecklenburg County Commissioner from 2004 to 2012, and she is currently the chair of the International House Board.
Nobody told us that we could animate our slides. I feel gypped. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Jennifer Roberts. I grew up here in Charlotte, and I'm a proud graduate of East Mecklenburg High. Go Eagles. My husband Manley and I are raising our kids here as well. Some of my favorite memories of growing up here were the pickup basketball games I played with my brothers and their friends on the outdoor courts at Lansdowne Elementary School. You know, as a little sister, I had to prove myself every day. And I took some hard hits in those games, but I'm thankful because it made me stronger. It taught me that to succeed against the boys as the only girl in the game, I had to be tougher and smarter and work harder for every point, because if I didn't, they had no problem pushing me around. I took those lessons from the court and put them to use in both school and athletics. In high school, I was all conference in 3 sports, basketball, track, and volleyball, and was proud to earn a Moorhead scholarship and to be the captain of the volleyball team at Chapel Hill. My generation was one of the first to benefit from Title IX. Back then, there was no WNBA. Women's soccer games weren't national events, and there were still men deriding women's sports. Fortunately, 2 of those things have changed. It is so exciting to see the opportunities that women now have in sports because we have to do a better job preparing women to compete. Sports taught me to work hard and to work together as a team. And while women have made tremendous strides in many areas, in some ways, things are getting worse. We are seeing cuts to health care and education, and women still earn only 76 cents on the dollar. I worry about the future we're leaving for my daughter and for all young women, and I'm committed to leaving more opportunity to the next generation than we inherited. That's why, as County Commission Chair, I worked with my friend Crandall Bowles to raise over $8 million to build a new and much-needed domestic violence shelter on West Boulevard. To help raise awareness for the shelter, every year I host a volleyball festival to spread the word about the great work that Safe Alliance and the shelter are doing for families. We have to stand together and put aside partisan politics to end the battles for women's rights that have spanned generations. It's time to end the fight by ensuring that women have access to health care, are safe in their own homes, and receive equal pay for equal work. I will make fighting for our daughters' futures a priority as our mayor, because we cannot spread opportunity to every corner of our city if we fail to fulfill our promise to half our children. And that is why I'm running for mayor, to help spread opportunity to all corners of our city. I plan to do that by strengthening our schools and by creating good jobs. As a former teacher and businesswoman, I know that good schools and good jobs go hand in hand. When I'm out in the community, one thing I continue to hear from concerned families is the lack of access to after-school programs. I was fortunate to have a great public education. It opened so many doors for me. The main reason I first ran for public office years ago was I was a room parent in my daughter's school, and I saw the challenges our teachers and kids face on a daily basis. Our elected officials were cutting funding for schools, and I could not sit back and watch them take away opportunity. After-school programs provide a safe and healthy environment for many kids with working parents. After-school programs supplement what CMS, our public school system, does. As I did with the shelter, I plan to work to bring together our community and raise money to create after-school programs so that all of our kids have the opportunity for a good learning environment in and out of school. And you can trust me to do this because I stand up for what I believe in, just as I did when I stood up for the LGBT ordinance in Charlotte earlier this year. As a wife and mother, I've worked with my husband to teach our kids the importance of inclusion and working together. And just like the fight for women's rights, social justice, and better policing, we have made progress, but more work needs to be done. We must show the world that we are a 21st century city and make a strong statement that we believe in equality for all people. It's the only way we can reach our full potential. We must be a welcoming city and build on our international foundation to become a global economic force and create new jobs. As a county commissioner during the worst recession in decades, I helped create 5,000 new jobs with companies not just from around the world, but also by unleashing the potential of our homegrown young entrepreneurs through groups like Packard Place. We work to strengthen our companies that were already here by creating resources for small businesses and minority and women-owned businesses. We need to bring young and diverse people to the table and unleash their creativity because they are going to be the source of our next great ideas. To move our city and the world forward, we must invest in young people, women, and minorities from diverse backgrounds and empower them to create. The more diverse our creative business sector is, the more successful it will be because there is a much stronger chance that a young person will be the one to unlock a new technology or see a new opportunity. My mother always told me if you want something, you have to work harder for it. Work harder, climb higher. That's why I work so hard to bring opportunity and inclusion to every corner and every member of our city. Every child deserves an opportunity to go to a good school, get a good job, and make a difference right here in Charlotte. In the same way I fought on the court to earn respect, I will fight for our city to show that everyone deserves a fair shot at fulfilling their dreams. We can be a 21st century global city with opportunities for everyone, and I look forward to working with you to make that happen. I ask for your prayers, your support, and your vote September 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Our final presentation before the question and answer period will be Scott Stone. Mr. Stone is president of American Engineering Firm, which is a regional firm headquartered here in Charlotte.
Well, I did something a little different. It would be great if we had the walking mic, but oh, great. My biggest concern was that after 5 presentations, I'd be going last and everyone would be ready to fall asleep. A lot of the pictures you're going to see are of my family and of Charlotte and my background a little bit, and I put as many pictures of my family as possible because they're much better looking than me, so I think that works in my favor. My name is Scott Stone. As Morgan said, I come at this from a little bit different direction. I'm a business person. My background is not in long service in public office. I am actually the president of an engineering firm that's headquartered here. It's a regional firm that's got employees throughout the region. And it's going to take someone with a business background who's going to have a new set of ideas, a new set of challenges. There's going to come a new set of solutions from outside of government. So I'm going to tell you a little bit today why I'm running. I'm going to tell you a little bit today of what my background brings to the table. And I'm going to try to do this in 400 seconds. I'm running for mayor because we're at a crossroads. I think that we are at a critical pass right now, a critical intersection right now, where we continue to have the same people running and offer the same solutions to the same problems, and we get the same results. The results are we continue to see increase in spending. We have continued increase in taxes, and we cannot continue to incur these debts and incur these higher taxes and continue to push people outside of our city all around the sub. Debts that we're going to place upon folks is going to be the next generation. Just like we're doing federally, we're doing the same things locally. So we need some new ideas. Let me tell you about my background. I'm an engineer by background. I'm a licensed professional engineer. My expertise is in transportation and infrastructure issues. These are some of the most important issues that are facing us and some of the things that we battle over the most. Right now we've got the streetcar, which seems to be a hot button for wasteful spending. I've certainly been against it my entire time here in Charlotte. It's wasteful because it's not cost effective, it's slow, it is not the top priority of where we should be spending our money. And what we need to do with our infrastructure is we need to change the way we do it. We need to look at our infrastructure spending and our capital spending. We need to prioritize. We need to look at our agenda and say, okay, where is the most congestion? Where are the opportunities for jobs? Where do we need the investments? And we need to rank our projects on how we want to prioritize those. That's how we need to address our infrastructure challenges. That's the way I think that we will avoid the politics, because right now there's politics in everything we're doing. There's politics in our infrastructure. It's like the state used to do with infrastructure spending with roads. If you drive to the eastern part of the state right now, you will find some of these roads, the best roads that we've got, no one's driving on them because it happened to be whoever was the strongest voice in Raleigh. We can change that here as well. We need to have a community coming together. One example is that's critically important for everybody has to do with How are we going to deal with mass transit in our CATS plan? We're about 10 years into it. We need to revisit the entire plan. Streetcar shouldn't be part of it, but why is the east and west part of Charlotte, why are they content with streetcar as an option? Why not light rail, or the light rail like we have going to the other parts of the city? Now, it's going to take longer to build out, but we're not building this system for next week. We're building it for the next generation. So it's critically important that as a community, we come together, we revisit this. There's some fundamental flaws just in our current 2030 plan that CATS have. For example, there's no connection points other than the streetcar maybe connecting things, sort of. We need to have transfer stations like every other city would have in their transit system. There's no metro center like you'd have in DC. These are the kinds of things we need to have as part of our solutions. And we need to come together as a community on that. We also look at East and West Charlotte. In East and West Charlotte, we need some investment. We need a lot more revitalization. But my question is, what does success look like? Right now, every time there is a new investment that goes in certain parts of the city, we're pushing people out. There's gentrification. We need to have a community dialogue as to what success looks like. Because if we can't have that conversation, every time there's an investment from the private sector or otherwise, we're going to have those battles. So those are the things we need to have dialogue on. My background brings at it a private sector solutions, and I'm the only one running for mayor who has that depth of experience. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I have had to deal with those return on investment decisions. I've had to deal with those tough outside of government kinds of challenges. So what we're going to need to turn this city, go in the different direction from the wasteful spending and the increase in taxes is going to be a new vision. It's going to be from outside of government. It's going to take someone who's going to look at certain projects and say, are we really going to get a return on investment? Is that worth an increase in taxes? And that's a good example of the streetcar, why it's just not working. There is no horse. It's more expensive, but it's just as slow. So that was my funny slide, so that way if I was really, taking too long, there'd be at least some humor and comedy. We've got an important decision to make in the next few weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to have a primary, and then a few weeks after that, we're going to have the general election. And it's going to be very important who our choices are in the general election and who we elect as the next mayor. It's going to take someone with some bold leadership. It's going to take someone who's not going to have the same solutions to the same problems. It's going to take someone who comes at it from a completely different scenario. All the people you heard from tonight, all the people running, they're all good people. They're all nice people. You're gonna like all of them if you get to know them. And they all care about this city, just like I care about this city. But if you look at the cadre of people, it's the same solutions, and you also look at the same people. If you look at the 5 of them that are running besides me, they've been on the ballot somewhere like 60 times between all of them. It's time for some new solutions. If you look at a lot of the photos you've seen here, I've got 2 daughters. I've got 2 high school daughters, so that's a challenge right there in itself. And I look at this city, and I want this city to continue to be home of opportunity, home of, hopefully, my kids. They're going to go away to college. I've got a daughter who's actually in 2 weeks. She turns 18 in a few weeks, and she's going to be able to cast her very first vote in her very first election, hopefully for her dad. It's going to depend on how the couple days before that go, but I think so. And we need to have the same kind of opportunities for them so that they can come back after college, live here, make this their home, live with their families here, grow their families, and be that next generation of Charlotteans. But we've got to have those kind of economic opportunities, and we've got to have the kind of city that I think I can help lead. Thank you.
Thank you. One more round of applause, if we can, for all of the candidates. And we are going to move on to the question and answer portion of the evening. Candidates, if you could all return to the stage now and take a seat up here. We've asked the audience to tweet questions to @WTFWeVote. In order to be considered to have your question asked, questions had to be directed at a specific candidate or 2. Each candidate will answer questions directed at him or her, but they will not answer every question. The questions will be moderated by Elizabeth Goodwin. Elizabeth is the Employer Outreach Coordinator for Wake Forest University Law School, has worked on several political campaigns, and is the co-director of WTF We Vote. finished. There you go. Okay, thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for being here. Are y'all ready to answer some questions? Yeah? Okay, maybe not. Ready to answer some questions? Okay, the first one's for Jennifer. And by the way, you all did a really good job on your presentations. I enjoyed them very much. Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about your vote on the 287G immigration program when you were on county commission? Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the 287G program is a program whereby local officials are trained and actually can perform as immigration officials to begin deportation proceedings for undocumented immigrants. There was a unanimous vote on the county to implement that program. It was being worked on around the country. The concept was that violent offenders who were not documented would be put into a different category and continue on to remove them from the country because they were violent repeat offenders. And that was a way to make our community safer. There was some controversy since because it wasn't always implemented the way it was originally envisioned. And from what I understand right now, our sheriff is not implementing that program, and we are looking for better solutions. I have worked with our immigrant community for years to try to continue to make Charlotte a welcoming city and to make sure that we are not working against folks who are here, building our community, working in jobs, paying taxes, but focusing only on keeping our community safe.
Great, thank you. David, can you talk a little bit more about the question as it was phrased was instead of just more jobs and more economic development, how do you plan to make things better? So can you talk a little bit more, I guess, about your 4-point plan that you have and some of the details?
Really? You want me to do all of it? Yeah. Okay.
I do not. Give us a little bit more detail, though.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that I've seen traveling around the world. One of the things that I saw in Barcelona is a program called M-Schools. It's actually a program where they're teaching kids how to code in junior high school. They've actually trained the teachers to actually be the team leads, and they've turned it into this incredible competition. They thought they would start off with a handful of schools, maybe 20 and maybe 1,000 kids. In the first year, they actually started out with about 200 schools and almost 4,000 or 5,000 kids. This year it's going to grow to 10,000. I've actually already made contact with the folks in Barcelona. Turns out there's some connections right here in Charlotte. And we're talking to Discovery Place and the school system right now about rolling that program out. Now, the one stipulation that I had was that if I was going to be involved with that program here in Charlotte, that it must start on the west side first, because a program like that would catch fast in other parts of the community, and the west side would be the last to get to come on. So that's one of the examples and one of the things that I saw that I've actually been working on already.
Great, thank you.
You want me to keep going?
We'll settle there. That was a very good example. Edwin, how do you plan to connect East and West Charlotte, like you talked about, while opposing the streetcar, the transportation method, which would obviously do that?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I am in support of mass transit. But as we look at the project for the streetcar and we look at the realities of the fact that we're building a house that doesn't have a revenue stream, we have to come to the reality of what are we going to do to continue to revitalize East and West Charlotte. And there's not one candidate here who doesn't believe that that needs to occur. First, I think we need to restore the Business Revitalization Corridor Fund, which is being starved at $2 million a year right now to fund the streetcar. Secondly, we need to get back to the tools in the toolbox that we know that we can use and always have used, which includes code enforcement, continued work with our CMPD. Secondly, we've got facade improvement grants. We've got brownfield investment grants that we can look for. And we've got signage and front store facade improvement grants that we can do. Real neighborhood leaders can come together to begin to revitalize block by block East and West Charlotte, regardless of whether TOD and transit-oriented development will occur or not. I made a foreshadowing here of the Curitiba, Brazil system about an innovative bus rapid transit system that's been in place since 1972 for a city that's around 1.9 million. I don't know if this is the system for Charlotte. The mayor doesn't put something down on the table and it happens. You have to work through a process. But one of the things that I realized about the streetcars, it's done more dividing than it has unifying anything. And it has allowed us to further delay what we need to do in this city, which is connect East and West Charlotte. So I think we need to have a new dialogue. I think we need to have a new plan B. I think we need to get back to the building block basics of what city planning is really about. It's generational. It takes a while. It's not pretty, but it takes leadership.
I'm going to let you hold on to that mic. I'll talk from this mic. How about that? Mayor Clodfelter, you got it. What made you change from your original position that many people thought you had not to run, actually, for mayor again?
When I came back to town from the legislature last April, I wasn't really sure exactly what I was stepping into. And it wasn't on my bucket list or my career path. It was something I just sort of felt a calling that needed to be done. And so I wasn't really sure at the time whether I'd like the job, whether I'd be any good at the job, or whether I'd get any sort of sense from the community that they thought I was good at the job and wanted me to stay. I said at the time, I don't have any present intention to run again, and that was true. I said, but I will. I did say this at the time. I will revisit that question and think about it again at the end of the year after I've had a chance to sort of see what this is all about. I've had a chance to engage with the community, and that's exactly what happened. I woke up after the holidays and began to think, wow, this is such a great place. I want to be part of continuing to build the future of this place as I've been for the last 30 years. So let's do it again. I'm not ready to hang up my hat quite yet.
All right. Mr. Stone, what should we as a city do to improve the educational outcomes of African American men, 40% of whom do not graduate from high school?
That's a great question, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have the answers for how to impact the education of African American men. That's going to be a community conversation that we need to have together with educators and black leaders. I will say this, though, one of the things that we need to do that is critically important, and CMS has done a better job at it, but we got a long ways to go, is to get young men and women to graduate. And one of the things that some programs that have existed so far, but not widely used enough, is apprenticeship programs. Some of our industrial companies, Siemens is a great example of industrial program there. They offer apprenticeships to kids still in high school. If we can take a kid in high school, transition him to a job that can grow into a long-term permanent job after college, after graduating high school, hopefully going to CPCC, continue with education. That's another apprenticeship program that CPCC is working with. Getting those kids to not stop with their education, not drop out, that is a pathway to success, and that's just an example of how we can work together as a community to do that. I wish I had the silver bullet. I wish I had the answer to how it's going to fix all the problem, but I think making sure kids get that high school diploma and continue to get them on a pathway to a job as quickly as possible is a big step.
Okay, great, thank you.
You can applaud, it's okay.
You absolutely can. David, when you visited Beijing and Barcelona, what was their perception of Charlotte? Do they have a perception of Charlotte?
Well, in Barcelona, it was actually one of interest. It turns out that the mayor of Barcelona actually had sent both of his sons to go to junior high school here. He had friends here. And actually the conversation was more about how do we start to form a relationship where we actually benefited from each other. If you think about it, right now we have the Sister Cities program, but in cities like Chicago and Mexico City, they've actually formed pacts. If you know anything about Bruce Katz in his book, Metropolitan Revolution, he's been talking about how metropolitan areas are going to be the cities, the centers of economic development from going forward, not necessarily countries. So the conversation in Barcelona was actually about how do we start to join our cities' interests together? How do we start to form some relationships? And it was not all just about education. We actually sat down with the vice president of FC Barcelona, the soccer team, to talk about them playing a game here in the Bank of America Stadium. For me, it was more about how do we engage in an international conversation than kind of saying, what do you think about Charlotte? Now, what I'd like to think is after I left, and we took that incredible group of Charlotteans to Barcelona, that they saw that we were serious about being global. So that's what I think the takeaway probably was.
Okay, great. Mayor Clodfelter, do you consider your mustache the best mustache in Charlotte?
Well, that's a trick question, and let me give you an honest answer about it. It's I really don't have a choice in the matter. You understand? My wife has never seen me without it. We've been married 41 years, and I'm afraid of what would happen in our marriage if I shaved it off. I'm stuck with it, folks. I'm stuck with it.
All right, I'm really sorry that the rest of you don't have a mustache so that I can ask that question. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but really. Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about some of the specific policies that you would implement to maybe improve race relations in Charlotte? I know that you are a big advocate of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Absolutely, and I think that we are very lucky here in Charlotte that we have terrific organizations who are already working on this conversation. Mecklenburg Ministries has had numerous meetings. I know many of you here tonight have been to some of those. I've been to several. The NAACP has had several meetings, Cops and Barbers. I mean, there are so many programs and conversations that are ongoing in our community that because Charlotte is a place where people do care, where they do recognize that, yes, we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers, and yes, we're connected and our fortunes rise and fall together. But we need to work more. We need to actually turn the talk into action. And I think we need to work to spread opportunity to every corner of our city. We also need to work to improve police training. And again, there are ongoing efforts to do that, and the relationship is improving. I want to mention that the Farrell family, our thoughts and prayers are still with them, and that no parent, we hope that no parent ever has to go through that again with a child lost in that way. I think their courage, their call for nonviolence has been a terrific example. And do I have time to talk about my pet project, or will that be later? We're working on something.
If we can wrap, probably we've only got a few more minutes.
I'll talk about that later. I have a really great idea about helping reach after-school programs in every corner of our community. I'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay. And they're all going to be at Queen City Q, maybe? I don't know. We've invited them to come and hang out afterwards if they would like to. So maybe you can talk about it some then. Let's see. Mr. Stone. You don't really like the streetcar, we gathered, from that whole, like,
maybe I just don't know it well enough.
Missing is a horse thing. One of the, and this is very similar, I think, to one of the questions that we asked Mr. Peacock, but one of the touted benefits to its expansion is growing development in traditionally economically depressed spots like the Beatties Ford Road corridor. What would you do to spur economic development in those spots if you're not going to have something like the streetcar that's an infrastructure project?
Sure. Well, let me answer two ways about the streetcar specifically and how we bring infrastructure there. The streetcar is not the best option if you believe that the light rail, for example, the blue line in both the north and it's under construction in the south, is going to drive economic development. I think we've seen some successes there. The streetcar isn't going to have the same impact because it goes much slower. It is just not the same system that people are not going to wait for as long as it goes. If you look at, for example, the 1.5 miles there is right now, I rode it last week just to see, just to actually experience it, and it was unbelievable to me how long it took. And people aren't going to wait that long, and it's just not going to drive the economic development. Now, my background, not only just my business background, but I'm an actual economic development expert. I've been a member of the North Carolina Economic Developers Association for the last 15 years. I know all the regional economic developers and worked on projects with them and have talked to CEOs as they're looking at deals. So I understand what they're looking for. I understand what's on their minds. It's a lot of different issues. One of the challenges, for example, we're facing in our city is our permitting process. That's kind of an in-the-weeds kind of thing, and I don't talk a lot about it in the campaign trail because it's not that exciting for most people. But if you look at Red Ventures, for example, They have so many jobs being created right now south of the border in Indian Land in Lancaster County. Now, they're also creating some jobs near UNCC, but I know for a fact that they are very frustrated, have been frustrated, like a lot of other companies have been, of how long it takes to get a permit to build a building so that they can open it and create jobs. We've got a bad reputation throughout the region and throughout the country as far as our permitting process and how hard it is to create jobs, and that's not the reputation we need. So it's things like that sound like they're into the weeds kind of thing, and they don't matter, but CEOs talk to each other. And one other thing, I think that if you look at the East Side, for example, I think we're looking for that home run all the time. That Eastland Mall redevelopment, I think we would all love to see some big, huge opportunity go there. But we keep swinging for the fences and we keep striking out because we're swinging for the fences. And I think it might be an approach where we just need to keep having base hits. We're doing some things right now as a city where we're looking at connectivity of streets. Independence Corridor, for example, the Independence separates two sides of the road, and it's hard to connect neighborhoods that way. There's a lot of base hits we can do, and we can't will it to success. We have to let success take its course, but we need to take every opportunity we can to bring those jobs there. But it's going to be a long process. Success for the long term is going to take a little time, but no one's going to work harder to do that than me.
Okay, great. Mr. Peacock, how can the city best facilitate Johnson C. Smith, CPCC, and UNC working together?
Questions about education and connecting our corridors. I'm really proud that the Blue Line is going to connect UNC Charlotte and the 49ers and take it right to the student union at UNCC, but unfortunately it will not connect to really reduce congestion because we didn't have enough money to take it to 485. But when you talk about what I mentioned in the slide about creating the West End, being able to connect Johnson and Wales, Northeastern University, we'll have a Queens Law School someday that possibly will be uptown, and to create a true educational corridor there. When talking with Dr. Carter, who has a vision to make that the urban educational institute for the world and make it the leader in urban education. When you see leaders that are willing to step up and to boldly go in that direction like Dr. Carter is, what you find very quickly is that as mayor, you've got a collaborative partner that you can get this job done with, that can do the heavy lifting, that can speak with the community leaders and bring people together. So again, our educational community absolutely has to be raised up and lifted through. If you saw from my P3 plan there, I mentioned education, not normally in the box of what a mayor would be about. But I know, and we all know, that our strongest neighborhoods have strong schools. We know that strong schools equal strong neighborhoods, and if we want a strong city, then we're going to need strong schools, which goes beyond K through 12. It goes beyond that to CPCC and the universities that I just mentioned as well, too. A mayor can, should be, and I will be a more dynamic partner to help tie the economic development opportunities of what Charlotte has the potential to have in all four corners to our educational community. And I think that's what a smart leader knows, is to try to connect one dot to the other and to make it better and to push people in a direction which maybe they might not be as comfortable with.
Okay, great. All right, Mayor Clodfelter. You've talked about the talented base of young people in Charlotte. What would you do to make it easier for young entrepreneurs to start and grow their businesses?
We've got a really rich and developing infrastructure of support facilities for new business startups, for innovations and startups, and especially in two sectors. In the fintech sector, so many of you know that concept, and also in the energy sector. And we've been working that very hard. I convened a series of conversations starting last year, and we're now meeting quarterly. We had the last one, most recent one actually yesterday, of the players in the fintech space to talk about how we can sort of grow the innovation culture in that industry cluster. I think one of the things that we may make a mistake in doing is if we try to copy what somebody else is good at. We need to first sort of do our prospecting here at home to see what we're really good at, and then how we can grow off of that and see new businesses and new ideas off of those industries. I really do think we have an opportunity to be on the map in the fintech sector and in the energy innovation sector, and we've invested a good bit of energy and resources in the city in that. The council set up an entrepreneurial fund, an entrepreneurial enterprise fund to help leverage private dollars in order to grow that ecosystem. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of trouble getting it off the ground because we've had some trouble getting buy-in from the private sector, and that's why I have been conducting those series of dialogues on a quarterly basis to see if we can bring more private players to the table. We have succeeded. Companies like Lowe's, which has a very active venture capital investment arm. You wouldn't think of a retail chain as doing that. They do have it. Companies like newcomers like MetLife have come to the table along with a lot of the traditional players like Siemens and Duke and the two banks. I think we can be more intentional about that, but I think we're already on the map. We're already on the map. We just need to grow our brand.
Okay, great. Scott, if Charlotte was an ice cream flavor, what would it be? Yes.
If you ask my wife, it'd probably be Chubby Hubby.
Yeah?
What it has been in some cases has been Rocky Road.
Mm-hmm. Has been.
But it's I'm trying to think of the one that is, what is the one with the 3 different flavors?
Neapolitan.
Neapolitan. I think that's what it should be, and that's what we should aspire to be as a flavor.
All right, great.
These are tough questions.
I know.
You're like Megyn Kelly. We're all scared to death. These are not the typical questions.
You should be.
So.
Mr. Peacock, if Charlotte had an official bird, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's tough. No turkeys, folks. Vote Peacock.
It's maybe a little bit of a gimme there. Jennifer, if Homer and Sir Purr got into a fight, who would win? If Homer, the mascot for the Knights, and Sir Purr, the mascot for the Panthers, got in a fight, who would win, you think?
Well, I have to say that since this is Charlotte, they'd probably roll around a while and then realize that they were both, working very hard for the future of our city, and they'd call it a draw.
That was an excellent answer. Good job.
They both win.
David, if Charlotte was a school kid, what would her favorite subject be?
Math and science.
Oh, that was a good answer, too. Okay, and then just to wrap all of this up, we have a question from Ted Williams, and it's to all of you, which we said we weren't going to do, but I'm making an exception for him. Which candidate would win in a one-on-one pickup game? Out of all of you. Yeah, against... Well, you can't go one-on-one if they're... Okay, so Ted would win that one. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for your time and your answers. We really appreciate it. Oh, you're allowed to do closing statements if you would like to. I'm sorry. But we're just going to go for it.
I think we're okay. Yeah. You guys know who we are.
Let's end it on that note. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please head over to Queen City Q. There'll be drink specials and a 10% discount for anyone who attended tonight's forum. You'll also be able to meet some of the candidates for City Council at large and districts. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our evening. We'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you to Amy for putting this all together. Don't forget, early voting begins this Thursday, September 3rd, and the primary election is Thursday, September 15th. You can watch the election coverage on WCCB News at 10. Good night.